Hello and welcome! The new Crusader Kings 3 DLC, Khans of the Steppe, comes out on the 28th, and to get ready for it, we're going to go through the latest dev diary, which is the changelog and achievements dev diary. Now, if you don't know, every time they release a new DLC for Crusader Kings 3, they will quite often release a fairly large free patch to go along with it. The reason for this is when they're creating DLCs, they tend to add in new mechanics, and a lot of the time these new mechanics have to interact with the old systems, and in order for that to work in a way that isn't completely impossible to manage, they have to add a lot of those mechanics into the old systems as well. So, for example, in this particular instance, they are adding in a new mechanic called tributaries. Now, tributaries are very specifically designed for this new Steppe government that they're bringing out. However, it's going to have to interact with the previous governments because, one, the previous governments can be tributaries, and two, they've added in a new tributary type for the previous government types, which then means that they're going to have to be able to have them, and it's all going to have to interact in some way. So, by doing that, then opens up a whole bunch of other things that might need changed, and that's why we're reading through this, just to see what exactly they have changed, what's in the free patch, what's in the DLC, and what other changes have they made across the board to accommodate some of the new stuff that they're putting in. So, let's start with the achievements. Now, the achievements in of themselves are not that exciting in this case. Usually there's one or two ones that are crazy, like there's usually like start as this culture and conquer this bit that's really far away, or all sorts of interesting stuff like that. As far as I can see, most of the achievements this time are basically just do the new stuff. So, become blood brothers is fairly easy, and then you got start as a nomadic ruler, migrate to from eastern steppe to the western steppe, form a confederation, have tributaries, build a pleasure dome, which is a new building type, use the overrun kingdom casus belli, so that's like do a big war basically. Become a settled ruler is something that you can do if you become strong enough, I believe, as a steppe ruler. You can effectively get close to settled and then actually settle, so that would be switching your government type away from the new government type. Become the greatest of Khans. Now, this is actually a thing that already exists within the game. So, greatest of Khans is a trait which is given to Genghis Khan. However, that would only happen when the Mongol invasion happens. Now the greatest of Khans is something that can appear naturally during gameplay. It's something that you, the player, can get, or the AI can get if they become a strong enough steppe ruler. If you do get this, it actually stops the Mongol invasion from happening, according to the previous dev diaries, because there can only ever be one greatest of Khans. So the moment that somebody gets this trait, that's it. They are the greatest of Khans, and it starts a war, and there's a whole bunch of event chains started with it. Sounds very cool. Be interested to see how it works in practice, and whether the AI is likely to be able to do it by themselves. I assume the answer is they may need some help from the player, or to be extremely lucky. Host an excellent Nurge hunt. Next one. And then starting as Temujin, conquer the world. Well, there you go. And that's pretty much all the achievements this time. In fact, that is all the achievements this time. So they're all fairly straightforward achievements, nothing too out of the ordinary there. So, this is now us getting into the changelog. So these are the actual changes that are being made. Now, you'll see that they have expansion features here, which are all the paid stuff. So this is everything that's going to be added in that's paid. And then I believe everything else is part of the free patch. So, let's start with the paid stuff. Added the new nomadic government type, heavily inspired by the nomads of the Eurasian steppe, including a new playstyle around herd and migration. Migration allows nomadic rulers to move around the Great Steppe in search of better pasture lands, negotiate with the locals, or subjugate them by force. Herd is a new currency only available for nomads that can be converted into horde riders and upgraded into better men-at-arms. Nomadic vassal contracts focused on herd instead of levies. So herd is basically the new currency that's going to be used for a whole bunch of things for the nomadic government type. So think of it like how influence was the new currency for administrative government types. This is the new currency for nomadic. You get it in different ways, but essentially it's the same concept. They're adding in a new currency so that it's something that doesn't have to interact with the other systems, right? So they're not using prestige for it because there's already a lot of systems that interact with prestige and they want it to be separate. So there we go. Nomadic capital domicile. It represents the collection of yurts nomads have during migration. They include 8 new domicile buildings with 80 plus new internal upgrades and a domicile culture/faith mechanic with unique decisions and character interactions. This again is something that's coming from the previous DLCs. This is the same thing as the Landless Adventurer Camp. This is the same thing as the administrative estate. This is yet another building that is the same type of UI. It's effectively a building that's separate from the land that you actually hold that gives you benefits. 5 dominance levels for nomads that govern their domain and vassal limit, which decisions they can take, and what titles they can target during migration. So dominance is a new kind of meta level thing, so I'm going to think of it as something like fame, which levels up with prestige. And I believe it's related to something like the strength and the size of the land that you hold. And then you can raise your dominance level, and if you get to the max dominance level, then you can start looking at events like becoming the greatest of Khans and so on. Nomads have a new dread cap, 150. That's interesting. Dread's always been it's been something that's a little bit abstract in terms of what exactly it does at different levels, but the logic behind this one, I'm assuming, is that if the nomads can go to a higher dread cap, then they can make people fall in line a little bit more easily via the dread. So dread is meant to make factions less likely to happen. It's meant to make people more agreeable to you. So new dread cap makes sense there. Nomadic subjects and courtiers have obedience towards their overlord, measuring how likely they are to form factions, perform hostile plots, and respect their decision of heir during succession. Gain someone's obedience by demanding it, negotiating it, or just impressing them through new character interactions and activity intents. Now, in one of the previous dev diaries, it said that obedience was a binary thing, which I assume means that they are either obedient or they are not obedient. So, in a way, is similar to hooks, I guess, is the nearest thing that I can think of it being. It's like, once you have it, then there's more things that you can do with it. Anyway, added new schemes for nomads, such as Steel Herd. Added 4 vassal directives just for nomadic vassals. New council positions for nomads, the Kurultai members. The Kurultai members may perform some familiar tasks, like increase county control and domestic affairs, but they will also have 6 new tasks focused on herd gain, fertility management, piety, raiding, culture hybridization, and reformation, and even exploiting their own lands to gain some extra income but reduce the fertility. So, basically, nomads still have a council, but the only council position that they share, I believe, with the other forms of council is Spymaster. From the previous dev diaries, they said Spymaster is pretty much the same. The rest of the positions are all different because you don't need the same things when you're playing a nomadic ruler as you do when you're playing feudal or administrative or clan or so on and so forth. So, yeah. Basically, it's just there's some new things that your council can do. A new succession type for nomads, the Kurultai succession, with different outcomes based on how stable or chaotic it is. Chaotic successions have effects such as herd loss, realm splits, or even realm dissolution, depending on realm size and number of disobedient Kurultai members. Okay, so this is similar to some things they've done in the past. It's a succession type that's going to basically have problems for your realm upon succession, which I quite like. I quite like having successions that mix things up, because generally by the end of a character's life, you've created a fairly stable realm in one way or another, so having it go a bit chaotic upon succession gives you something to do. It gives you new goals. Settlement issues. New contracts available for nomadic rulers after migration, focusing on increasing the county control of their new area. The Way of the Nomad trait ensures that the nomadic lifestyle stays with their children for one generation after leaving the steppe, focusing on cultural and religious tolerance and opening up the possibility of becoming an adventurer. Alright, so once you finish being a nomad, there's still some benefits that you get from it. There's still a little bit of flavour before the generation afterwards where they're fully settled. And you can choose to leave, you can choose to go back to being an adventurer, you can choose to go and do whatever else you want to do. Still makes sense. Added the Great Steppe Situation, a new regional mechanic for the Eurasian steppe divided into 3 geographical regions. Each county within the Great Steppe has county fertility, regulating the herd gained by the nomads holding them, with appropriate alerts when fertility is low or when it's time to migrate. So basically you stay somewhere until the fertility is low, then you move on to the next place, and the next place, and the next place, and you keep trying to move your realm to where there is higher levels of fertility, so you get more herd, like more of the new resource. The steppe seasons affect the county fertility of their regions, as well as the behaviour of nomadic rulers within, including vassalization and tributarization acceptance, bonuses to raiding, and even free CBs. The seasons are visualized on the map. So, from what it said in the previous dev diary, I believe there are 2 good seasons, 3 bad seasons, 1 very good season, and 1 very bad season. So basically you want to move around into places where you've got better weather, for lack of a better term, and then that will then allow you to have higher county fertility, which then allows you to get more herd, which then so on and so forth. But the main thing that this is going to do, I think, is it's going to lead to a lot of reasons to do conflict, right? If there happens to be a lot of areas that have got bad seasons, which there are more likely to be bad seasons, I'm assuming, because there are more of them than there are good seasons, then you're going to try and migrate to somewhere that's got a good season, along with other people, and that's going to lead to conflict over individual pieces of land. Gather the largest herd of the steppe and become the Gurkhan, a formidable warrior marked for greatness en route to becoming greatest of Khans. Yeah, so if you have the largest herd, you get that, and that's linking back to what I was saying earlier about dominance. I believe you have to be I think it was saying you had to be level 5 dominance to be a Gurkhan as well. So you have to do everything that you need to do. You have to be the strongest, have the largest herd, and then level up your dominance levels. Then you can get this position. And then, if you do that, plus some more things, you can become greatest of Khans. Added another new, unplayable government type, herders, which inhabit the steppe and replenish fertility, but lack any military strength. Okay, so they've added a new government type that you can't play that's in the steppe. So I'm assuming that this is basically meant to be something to hold the land while the nomads government types are going around, because obviously you're moving from place to place, so you're not going to hold the land that you leave. Herders, I'm assuming, will come in and take that land and will basically hold it and replenish the fertility level until such time as another nomadic government comes in and takes it, right? Which, yeah, it's basically just their way of showing that the land is recovering, because land can't be held by nobody in this game. Or at least that isn't currently a mechanic. A new bookmark has been added. Cool. A new 1066 bookmark has been added. Again, cool. I can't remember whether 1178 is... I think it might be one of the ones that already exist. So these must just be ones that let you see the interesting characters on the other side of the map. So it's just a way of showing you interesting characters. It doesn't actually do anything, really. New game rules to make other areas nomadic. Sapmi and Karelia, Arabia, the Sahel, and the Horn of Africa. That's cool. Be interested to see how that plays out in reality, as in, how does that look? How does that change the dynamics of the different areas around there? But yeah, in theory, it's cool. It adds a little bit more flavor. A lot of these areas that are being changed are areas that naturally don't have as much flavor in the game because they're just a little bit out of the way. So I like that. Change the map table to be adjusted based on situation. E.g., the Byzantine map is only for the Byzantines, the plague map only happens during significant plagues. I like that, actually. I like having the map table be a little bit more dynamic. It's cool that they were adding in new ones, but with them adding in lots and lots of new ones for each new DLC, it makes sense for them to make it a little bit more dynamic so that if you happen to own multiple of them, you can see more of them. So that's cool. Added a Bring Under Tribute CB for non-nomads to force an independent ruler into becoming your tributary. So, this is something that's being added to not nomadic realms. So this is a new mechanic for them, allowing them to basically have some of the tributary mechanics of the nomads. Added a Become Tributary interaction that lets you pledge yourself as tributary to an independent ruler of a government type that can have tributaries. So I'd imagine that the benefits of becoming a tributary might be they won't attack you because you're already their tributary, or they might protect you. I don't know what the specifics are, but that's same as, like, forget exactly how it's phrased, but the same as the Become a Vassal this interaction, basically. There are reasons you might want to do it, but probably not something to be used all the time. Added a Demand Tributary interaction that lets nomad rulers demand tribute from independent neighbors. So, interestingly, non-nomads have to declare a war to make an independent ruler into a tributary. If you are a nomad, you can simply just rock up and go, "You will be my tributary," and see what they say. Added 2 non-nomadic tributary types and their obligation levels. So again, there's non-nomadic things for tributary non-nomadic things. New nomadic court positions: Stargazer, General, Chief Law Overseer, Siege Engineer, Quartermaster, Keeper of Horses, and Chief Bodyguard, with new tasks that heavily interact with the nomadic government and the Great Steppe. Cool. Some of those sound like they're similar to ones that were added for Adventurer, so I'm wondering whether, I think Siege Engineer and Quartermaster were added for, like, the Landless Adventurer, so I'm not sure if it's going to be the same there. But it's interesting they're saying they heavily interact with nomadic government, so be interesting to see what that does. Added new men-at-arms. There are new men-at-arms. They'll have different stats, but I imagine they work much the same as the old men-at-arms. Added new cultural traditions. Okay, cool. Added Siberian Permafrost county modifier to lands on the northeastern border of the map that highly synergizes with the tribes of the North cultural tradition. Okay, so if you have the North cultural tradition, is that one of the new ones? Tribes of the North, I'm assuming it's meaning? Well, okay, so it's saying if you are up there, you need the cultural traditions to be able to properly use the land. I'm assuming it'll be something like, if you have that tradition, the fertility of the land will be higher for you. Similar to the ones that do that for things like supply limits. So if you have the right cultural tradition, you get higher supply limit in lands with winter, for instance. I think that's one of them. So it's a similar type thing. Right. Added a new blood brother relationship type, hooked in as a variant of the friend relation. Only available through the Swear Blood Brotherhood interaction, provides positive modifiers for useful blood brothers and alliances between ruler blood brothers. Cool. I like that there's new friend relationships. Just adds a little bit more flavor. Added the new Tessagaran or Tessagan Tsar feast type. Only available in the winter months to celebrate the coming of a new year and obtain gifts from your guests. So, new feast. Added the new Nurge Hunt type, an activity focused on obtaining martial and prowess skill points, commander traits, and trait experience. Ooh, that sounds like that'll be really good. Added more than 70 new flavor events for nomads, including events related to seasons, blood brotherhood, and migration. Added severed head content to the execution interaction, allowing you to keep the heads of those you behead or send the head to their successor. I believe they have also added that to this is like not just for nomads, that's for non-nomads as well. Added flavor events for Temujin and Jamoka, as well as a Conqueror event to propel player Temujin to becoming Greatest of Khans. Created a Greatest of Khans storyline, beginning with the Become Greatest of Khans decision. A Great War of Defiance CB that neighbours launched to prevent the Gurkhan from becoming the Greatest of Khans, revamped events for the Greatest of Khan trait and other bonuses, the offer submission or ruin interaction for the Greatest of Khans and the related Greatest of Khans Onslaught CB. New Turkic, Mongolic and Iranian cultural nicknames for the Greatest of Khans. Reform the Great Khaganate decision, a capstone to the Greatest of Khans' success, allowing them to establish a huge de jure empire and choose a government type of their choice, gaining significant bonuses towards that form of rule. So, they basically made the Greatest of Khans thing an event chain that you can play through, and then you can, at the end of it, be like, we're going to be a new feudal government, we're going to be a new clan government, we're going to be a new admin government, so on and so forth. So, very cool. Interested to see how that plays out. It also sounds like playing Temujin is going to be very interesting because they've added events to propel a player Temujin to Greatest of Khans. So if you start out as Temujin, you're then going to get events from Temujin that let you to become Greatest of Khans. Then you can get into the Greatest of Khans storyline and get even more. So it's going to be a nice event chain to play through, which will be cool like once or twice. But yeah, I like adding in some extra flavor events. Added 25 new special decisions for nomads, including ways to switch government types, ways to expand your realm, expand the steppe region, introduce your heir to potential friends and blood brothers, manage fertility in your domain, hire courtiers and candidates for new court positions. Cool. Added new casus belli for nomadic rulers, including overrun kingdom, expand dominance, sovereignty, humiliation, retaliation, and nomadic county/duchy quarrels. I'm assuming a lot of these will look similar to ones that already exist, but they're slightly twisted for nomad rulers because they need different things and different outcomes. Added a Paisa system with unique decisions and character interactions. Establish Paisa system. Summon wealthy visitors Paisa. Abuse Gurkhan's authority, leverage Khan's authority. I'll be honest, I have no idea what any of that means, but we'll find out. Added a new nomadic dynasty legacy focusing on herd management, fertility, raiding, and military might. In my head, I was like, it's a new dynasty legacy that you can collect when you're getting all of them. You can go up to get the Norse ones, you can go down to get the Iberian ones, you can come over to get the nomadic ones. Just keep adding into them. I think there are more as well, actually. It's the Byzantine ones and there might be Persian ones as well? I can't remember. Anyway, there's a lot of them that you can now collect across the map. Revamped the old Mongol invasion event chain, integrating new features and elements of the Greatest of Khan story. Yeah, so new Mongol invasion will get upgraded, and I'm assuming that's the reason why if someone becomes Greatest of Khans, there won't be a Mongol invasion. I'm assuming the reason for that is, let's say the AI becomes Greatest of Khans, it will effectively play out like the Mongol invasion will now play out, right? It's naturally evolved during the game rather than it just spawning in Temujin and then coming from the side of the map. I think this is also very important because they are, I believe, planning to expand the map, so it makes sense that they would want to have a way for this to happen naturally, because there's no longer spawning in from the side of the map. The side of the map has moved. It would just be appearing in the middle of the map at that point. Anyway. But that's not happening yet. That's down the line. But I can see why they might have been thinking about changing that. Added the Burkhan Khaldun special building in Kenti. Added new ambience, sounds, and music tracks for nomads. Great. And now we're done with the paid bit. So everything above there was paid. Everything below here is now just being added to the base game, from my understanding. At least the way this is written out. So, game content. Added 5 new raid intents, available for nomadic and tribal armies. Pillage, terrorize, capture, plunder, and adventure. So you can set what you want your raid to be for, like what you're aiming to get out of your raid. Added confederations, an agreement between tribal or nomadic rulers that commits them to joining one another's defensive wars. Decision to call for a confederation, they offer Confederation interaction, which adds rulers to the Confederation, and abandon Confederation decision for leaving your Confederation, a decision which allows you to turn your Confederation into a Kingdom tier realm, with you as its monarch, and Confederation elective succession for the created title. Added new icon for Confederations. That sounds very similar to something that was in CK2. But yeah, it's nice. It gives tribal rulers a way to band together. So instead of you as, you know, let's say you're playing as someone like, trying to think of the right place on the map. Let's say you're playing as someone like East Francia. You could, in theory, have just conquered huge amounts of tribal land with very little effort because you have better men-at-arms. This now gives them a way to like band together and basically push you back without making them all one realm. I mean, unless, of course, you do the decision that allows you to turn your Confederation into a Kingdom tier title, at which point, well, then it is one realm, but yeah. It adds a little bit of solidarity against outsiders, basically. That's the way I'm seeing that. Added a Bring Under Tribute CB for non-nomadic rulers. Oh yeah, I was wondering about that, because it was in the paid section. But yeah, it's quite clearly in the non-paid section as well. Unless... Anyway. I think it's, yeah, I'm sure this is non-paid, but I don't know, we'll find out when it comes out, I guess. Added potential friends, potential lovers, tributaries and suzerains to the default activity guest invite rules. Ah, so it gives you more options for who to invite to things. That's kind of cool that you can do potential friends and potential lovers. I wonder how it works that out. Like whether you have to be like along the event chain a little bit to get that, or whether it's just anyone who could be your friend. I don't know, anyone with a positive opinion of you. Made it possible for domicile buildings to trigger specific map graphics for holdings. Okay. Added character interaction for guardians to teach a commander trait to award. That's nice. So if you want a particular commander trait, now that commander traits rank up over time, you can get it onto your child so they have it as early as possible. Added memory for all participants of a successful hunt. So memory is the system which you can open up on one of the character buttons that basically says like, I did this on this date. So if you want to look back at what a specific character did, that'll now show up. It'll now say it's a successful hunt. I think they can also use memories for other events. So it can be like, I remember back to when I did this, and then it lowers your stress or something. So, that's cool. Added mercenary hire time modifier, affecting how long mercenary contracts last. Huh. So you can now have it so that mercenary contracts last different amounts of time. So previously, I think it's, 2 or 3 years or something? I can't remember what exactly it is. I think it's like 3 years. So now mercenary contracts last different amounts of time. I wonder whether that's something you can set, or whether it's per mercenary contract, or whether it's purely just, or whether it's something you can earn, or whether it's something for modders to use so that they can have mercenaries be at different times. I have no idea. Anyway, added capital fort level and capital additional fort level modifiers. Yeah, so again, same as the one above. I don't know how that's being used, because it doesn't say that they're adding it to events. It doesn't say that they're adding anything that's gonna like actually use this, so it could just be that they're adding the ability for you to do it, which is mostly useful for modders. Updated councillor related events to include Kurultai if they fit the context. Yeah, so because Kurultai aren't exactly the same as councillors, they've now added them to the old councillor events. Subject contracts can now have prestige transfers as obligations. Huh. So, it's also important to note that they've now stopped calling people vassals in-game, or exclusively vassals, because vassals are only, obviously, if you are a vassal. You could also be a tributary, and you would still be a subject, right? So vassals and tributaries are both subjects of the ruler. So now what it's saying is you can now, I'm guessing you can now have it transfer a portion of prestige to the person at the top, to whatever the person at the top's name would be, but basically whoever holds the subject's contract can now get prestige. I think the previous ones were levies and money, so Yeah, that's cool. It also makes sense because they've now added prestige to court positions. So court positions now cost prestige. So now there's actually a chance that you may run out of prestige at some point. So now you can basically say, actually, I don't need your money. I've got enough money. I need prestige so I can pay for the people at court with prestige. Added new interaction category, tribute. Interaction categories, I believe, are the thing when you right-click on people, it like pops up with all the different categories. There's just one for tribute, so it'll be all the new tribute decisions. Added a new vassal stance, belligerent. That's cool. I'm assuming that that's going to be one when they're unhappy with you, they'll then be belligerent. I wonder if they're going to use that for when factions say that, or when is when you try and imprison someone, it says all vassals who are unhappy with you will like join this thing. I wonder whether it's going to be all vassals who are belligerent will join it now. Whether they're going to use it that way, not sure. Anyway, databases. This is basically just name changes and other such things. So rename the Kingdom of Mongolia to the Kingdom of Utuken. So that one, I'm assuming, is a more correct name for it. Yeah, Wenceslaus's cathedral changes. The building now has 3 upgradable levels, so you can now upgrade it to these different levels, and that's adding in some more flavor to it. Rearrange the starting cultural traditions for the cultures in the steppe. That makes a lot of sense, because previously cultures in the steppe were not particularly focused on because, well, they were kind of outside the main play area. By main play area, I'm meaning like the main play area previously was obviously around the Mediterranean and the Middle East and Western Europe because it was related to the Crusades. Now they're moving in the steppe, so they want to do some focus, clean it up, make different cultural traditions that make a little bit more sense for the area. It's the same kind of thing as the Kingdom of Mongolia as well. It's probably going to be more specific cultural traditions for the more specific areas of the map, a little bit more focus on that. And then we're into bug fixes. Okay, I was wondering where balance was, but balance is below it. Okay. Bug fixes. I'm going to skip anything that says it's to do with icons. So icons, there we go. The AI will actually check if they can feudalize holdings now. They've never done so. Oh. The AI has never checked where it can feudalize holdings. Huh. So, I think this is when you have a realm which is converted to feudal. So a tribal realm will say convert to feudal, but they have all these tribal holdings. Now what you can do as the player right now is you can give them 500 gold and they'll convert their tribal holding to feudal. But the AI never actually checked whether they could do it themselves, apparently. Ah. Alright, well that explains a lot of why tribal land still seems to exist much later into the game than you would think. Fixed a maximum number of horizontal slots for terrain effects. I think that... I'm not entirely sure actually what that one's relating to. It might be relating to the building slots, but I'm not entirely sure. Fixed men-at-arms illustrations. Yes, we're not worried about that. Crash when calculating tax collector aptitude. I've had that crash. Yeah, I've had that crash many times, so that's good. Fixed misleading tooltips. Love it. Message when leave grants you a pardon. Reversed reason when rival gains from losing realm. Erroneous liege converting county notifications. I've had that as well. Fixed fellow vassal faction join event referring to you as the liege. I think I've had that one as well. Fixed visuals for the Soldier of the Cross Crusader event. Yep. Fixed dangerous beast slain modifier sometimes being applied after hunting non-dangerous animals. Yeah, we had something similar. Characters will now use more correct cultural weapons. Okay. Improved readability of messages from tutor educate child task. Don't know what that's meaning. Might mean that it gives you a message that's actually useful. Non-Christian characters will no longer use the crucifix scepter. That makes a lot of sense. Made effect tooltip for Pleasure Dome more generic. But Pleasure Dome's a mechanic that you're not adding till this patch, so you've got a bug fix for a mechanic that's only being added in this patch. So I guess that was a bug during testing? Anyway. Fixed missing counselor tooltip erroneously referencing counselor instead of full-time member. Again, like, these, I don't think we need these because these are for These are bugs for the patch. As in, like, that they're adding in. Like, so, okay, cool. For mechanics that don't exist yet. Reveal the actual gold cost behind pay homage. Change the court position tooltip concept to be player contextualized and display officer instead, or in addition to court position when appropriate. Removed old holder of court positions being oddly grateful that you replaced them. Fixed missing capitalization, sure. Fixed appearance. Players will only be informed of faith creation when nearby or otherwise relevant to them. I kind of liked being told all around the map when things were being created, but I could see why. If you're just living a small realm, you don't really care if somewhere halfway across the world does it. I'm also assuming that this might be because they're planning on expanding the map, so once the map gets significantly large enough, you don't want it telling you all over the world every time there's a new heresy, right? When there's only a few, it doesn't matter. Made it impossible to relocate your capital to a province with a disabled holding. Alright, yep. So a holding would be disabled if you say hold too much land. It will say this is disabled for 1 year, and then we'll re-enable. And the reason it would do that is because, say, your domain limit is too high, it doesn't enable the building, so you don't take the penalty from it, and it gives you time to deal with the holding. So it's not wanting you to move your capital to a holding which is currently disabled because you're above your domain limit, say. So you have to sort out some stuff or wait. Fixed AI adventurers sometimes getting a hook on you because they completed a contract for your Chancellor. Yes, I think I've seen that happen. That is annoying. Because you have no control over it one way or another, so it's like you don't get the decision on whether they get a hook on you. Fixed bloody weddings and grand wedding events having incorrect scopes when dispersing rewards. Fixed peasant faction war not inherited on death of primary defender. Okay. I thought that was intended. But anyway, that's fine. Or maybe it means the war continues, but there's nobody in charge of it. I don't know if I've seen that. When your charioteer loses, the corresponding team color illustration will show up. Cool. The event Treacherous Slopes will now tell you of the outcome of the stewardship options. I think Treacherous Slopes is the one that you can be killed on while traveling. So I'm assuming that's because it wasn't telling you would die, or everyone would die. The Adventurer Landed message will now only be shown for rulers within the same realm. Again, that's actually kind of nice, although you might want it to show you people outside the realm if you're just kind of generally nosy. The event Night Attack will no longer wound the same poor follower multiple times. Event Nursing a Suspicion can no longer make spouses suspicious about themselves. Yes, I have had this one. So, yeah, this would be like... I'm trying to think of how we triggered it. Something. I think Nursing a Suspicion happens when they think that you're sleeping with someone else. So if you have a lover, but you can be married to someone and be a lover, and then it will be like, I think that you're sleeping with someone, and you'll be like, yeah, it's you. And anyway, there we go. They made more updates to the 1778 start date, so these guys will now have feudal governments instead of whatever they had before. I'm trying to think. Calatrava, Merida. They probably had clan before? I mean, my guess. Fixed a faulty trigger for managing courtiers. Fixed a crash when removing a character from a Great Holy War. Fixed the inverted descriptions of the Mozarabic break with Rome decision of righteous and fundamentalist. Fixed a few instances of incorrect usage of title tier as honorific. Fixed a typo. Fixed a bug where Empire tier holdings did not get the offer fealty malus for king tier or higher titles. And that's not a consistent bug, I assume, because I've definitely seen that. I've seen the malice there. So malice is basically saying if you tried to offer someone fealty, it would say like -200, I am a king. It's saying that's not there for some reason, for some Empire tier holdings. So they fixed that happening. Locked armless people from doing actions which require 2 hands. Okay. Fixed an issue where newly landed Muslim rulers would get male preference instead of male-only succession. Oh, okay. Balance. So these are balance changes. Usually this is the largest part of the patch, but it's very small here. Balance. Disillusioned factions now also destroy any kingdoms an emperor might hold, avoiding border gore / impotent dissolution faction outcomes where everyone's still in one realm. Alright, so I'm trying to think of the way that this might work. So say that you're an emperor who holds you're an emperor and you hold a kingdom and all your vassals are dukes, right? What would happen if they raise a dissolution faction? Well, it would destroy your top tier title. Your top tier title is the kingdom. As a kingdom title holder, you would still be entitled to hold all of the dukes as your vassals, right? But that would be your entire realm. So basically it would just destroy the empire and leave you perfectly fine. You would just have exactly the same amount of land and you could just recreate the empire. Now, it's going to destroy your kingdoms, which now means that they would all be separate. Which is good. Although it may have destroyed the first kingdom anyway, so it could be like if you had a second kingdom, you would still be a king, therefore you could still have the dukes, but anyway, that's now gone. Dissolution factions will now break everything down to duke level, right? So there will only be duchies underneath, or there'll be duchies and king vassals underneath. Increased and standardized speed of adventurer contracts. So adventurer contracts won't take as long, which should mean that adventurers become stronger, I would think, because they're completing more contracts. Added a decaying opinion, although they did also weaken adventurer contracts at some point, so this might be a result of weakening the contracts. So they might have weakened the individual contract rewards, but now they let you do more contracts, and that's the way that they're sorting that. Added a decaying opinion malice for your former suzerain if you break the tributary relationship by pledging fealty to someone else. Again, this one shouldn't be in balance because this is a new mechanic that doesn't exist, so, like, okay, cool, but the mechanic doesn't exist yet, so it doesn't really matter, it's just a new thing they've added in. Flat men-at-arms bonuses from cultural traditions are being converted to percentage bonuses. So, the reason for this is probably so that you don't... There was probably ways of getting cultural traditions that gave you, like, say, a flat, say, 50 damage to a certain men-at-arm types, and then that would then allow you to achieve things that would be a little out of what they should do. So say that you had a men-at-arms type that gave you, like, 300 troops per thing. I don't know if that exists. I'm just making an example that's large so that it makes sense. So let's say you had one that gives you 300 troops, and then you had a flat bonus. It's then giving you a huge amount per troop, compared to one that's like 50 troops, or one that's 100 troops, which would be standard. While if they make it a percentage bonus, it doesn't matter how big or like how many troops you have, right? It will use whatever the value they have on them is. So, if it was meant to be like you had 300 troops, but each one was weaker than the 100 troop army, it now evens out, because the percentage bonus should only improve that smaller amount. Or if you had a smaller army, it should give you a larger bonus, because it's now percentage based. So, yeah, that's all they're trying to do there, is they're trying to make percentage bonuses more consistent across... They're trying to make all the bonuses more consistent across the board, rather than being like very, very useful for like one men-at-arms type. And then they added in a bunch of art changes, so things like making them use different art assets, or they've added in new interfaces and so on and so forth to make it look nicer. I'm going to skip past all of these because, I mean, all of these are visual changes. We're not going to get a lot from reading the patch notes. User modding, we'll also skip past. Interface. Alright. Rework the Realm Window interface. Being one of our oldest panels, it's getting harder to work with and append new functionality to. When rewriting the code, we also took the opportunity to improve its presentation, coming on par with other modern windows when balancing the information load in each tab. So the Realm Window, I think, is the one that's like the top one on the list, and it's the one that shows you like different holdings that you have within your realm, and it shows you different vassals, I think, is also in the Realm Window interface, so that'll be interesting to see how that looks different. Added an expanded interface of cruelty tasks, since all members have access to 8 tasks each. yeah, so they've basically changed how the counselor tasks have to be shown because they now have too many tasks. That's probably going to be useful for mods because quite a lot of mods add extra counselor tasks. Made paper style UI skinnable. Oh, okay. For example, on contracts or letters, for now, Mongolic cultures will have a more Eastern-styled look to their paper interfaces. Again, that's kind of useful. That means that 1, it'll be a different flavor in the base game, but 2, useful for mods. Court position type tooltip now shows requirement of showing a courtier's fulfillment of the requirements. Court position type tooltip now show requirements as if showing a courtier's fulfillment of the requirements. Okay. So this would be if you have a court position and you're looking for somebody to put in it. Right now, it would show you, like, if you have nobody was eligible, it would just be like, can't do it. Now it's like, okay, now we're going to show you the requirements. Like, what specifically do you need to put somebody in that court position? And then you can actually go and look for it. Rather than just saying, like, oh, you have a courtier and he fulfills, like, one of the conditions. It's like, okay, cool. Anyway, so it's just going to make it easier to put people in court positions. Added contextual map icons for when raiders are raised and selected. Will show province loot within a range of selected raider armies owned by the player. Nice, they're making raiding better because it's added for nomadics need it, but it's also useful for the old raiding stuff. Added new diplomatic relations map mode which shows current diplomatic relations the selected ruler has. Huge! Absolutely huge. So I'm assuming that this will do, and there must have been a map mode that showed it in the previous game, but I'm assuming that this will show you when, like, if you're at war with a bunch of people, it will show you as at war with them. It will show you where your allies are. It will show you all that sort of stuff, which is very useful because I've often wanted that, because otherwise you have to kind of go into like the different bits of the interface and work it out yourself. It'd be useful just to have a map where you just go in there and go, alright, so there's where their allies are, there's where their enemies are. And I think that would be quite useful. So you can then be like, okay, all their allies are like miles away from them. Doesn't matter, right? Or, actually, they're at war, but the war is to the north and we're at the south, so all their troops are going to be at the north, right? That would be useful. Exposed file transfer speed setting to be configurable in the multiplayer lobby settings. No idea, but I'm assuming, oh, there you go, improved default transfer speed for multiplayer save games, which should reduce time to start multiplayer games significantly. That's nice. I don't do very much multiplayer. And that's it! That is all of the patch notes. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and it should give us a better understanding when we jump into this stuff, or into the new DLC, as to what exactly we're looking for and what changes have been made, and different things from the base game that have been changed. Now, our playthrough of the new DLC will probably start on the 29th, because they usually release the DLC at 5 o'clock UK time, which is roughly when I usually put out videos, so it'll probably be the day after the DLC actually comes out, but hopefully I'll see you all for that, and yeah, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time, goodbye.